It's been one of those weeks. I think I'm starting to start all of these off like that. Like it's been one of those weeks. I'm literally having the best week ever. And it's hasn't felt like this in a very, very long time. And one of the reasons being is because I've always found myself in very toxic situations, and I don't think I've ever had a moment where I've just actually sat back and been like, you know what? Life is going pretty good right now. I got this going on. I got that going on. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really happy. And that's, I don't know if that's, yeah. I'll keep it real with myself. That's really bad. That's really bad that I can't honestly say that I've ever felt like that in a really long time. There's a lot of factors and a lot of changes that I had to make to set off and define my own happiness. Uh, with the previous, not this last job, but the job before that, I was employed with them for over 5 years. When it got closer towards the end of my employment, I was so stressed out. There were so many things that were happening that I just, like, now in hindsight, I'm sitting back like, why didn't I sit back and basically like fix it? Why didn't I change it? Why did I wallow and keep my whole spirit, that whole unhappy spirit? I didn't understand it. And I think a lot of the times that when we go through a lot of things and we stay there, a lot of the times it's for comfort. Everyone has their reasons on why they stay in situations that make them unhappy. Now, this is like relationships, this is with a job, this is with life, this is around toxic family members. And one thing that I noticed, like within the last 30 days, I've been able to change the whole dynamic of my relationship. I have changed the dynamic with the relationship with my children's father and my children. I've changed my job. I've changed my job. I've changed the whole way that I go about thinking and putting myself into my business. And it's just when you do things like that, everything comes back and you're just so happy with the decisions that you make. And this is something that I honestly did not do in the past ever. I stayed at that job, and it wasn't really a crappy job. The pay was great, the benefits were good, it was decent, and I was making enough to survive and live, but I wasn't making enough to have like leftover where I can make other plans. I was just doing just enough. When I got laid off of that job, for 3 or 4 months I didn't have a job, and I literally was getting paid like almost scraps. I have no clue, even to this day, I have no clue how I was able to not get evicted, not like have my life come down in shambles. I have no clue how I did it, but I was able to do it. But at the same time, I wasn't happy doing anything. I was applying for jobs. I was doing everything I was supposed to. But honestly, I just really was not happy. The whole dynamic with my relationship with my children, there were ways that I could have gone about, establishing a better relationship with their father, a better relationship with my daughter, because it's getting to a point where, the type of relationship I have with my kids, it's equal, but I need to start really involving myself in the mental scope with my daughter. And I didn't think about that until something happened recently with my son. My son was walking home from school with one of his friends, who's a young lady, a very pretty little girl. And on the way, when they were walking home, a couple of high school kids, they were catcalling the little girl. Now, mind you, my son's 12, his friend's about 10 or 11. And we're talking about like high school boys. We're talking about like 15, 16, 17-year-old boys. I think the one that was the actual perpetrator for all this, he was actually 17. So they're catcalling my son's friend, and they got to the point where they got close enough to start touching her and groping her. When she asked them to stop, my son asked them to stop. That's when they decided to jump my son. Now, during this time, they didn't put any bruises on him. They didn't really do anything to him where he was going to have to get stitches, have to go to the hospital. They just barely like tapped him up. And so my son came home because, he came home to his dad and he told his dad what happened. His dad went to go find out who were these people that did this, because this is the thing about my kid. We since he was a baby, since he's been 3, he's always been very proud of being a big brother. And I'll be honest with you, I could never have expected a better big brother for Chloe than to have Jaden. Like, he is literally the best big brother you could ever possibly have. He's covered her. He has protected her. He has made sure, to give her advice, which is kind of strange because, he's 12. He's an old soul like my kid. So he gives her advice on things that she shouldn't do when she's about to get herself into some trouble. And he's a really great kid. And one of the things that we also taught him is, no, you protect your sister. You're there to protect her. You're not there to hurt her. You're not there for her to hate you. They had their little moments where they hate each other. He was like, you need to take her back. I want a little sister. I'd be like, no, you stuck with her. So it's kind of like that with him. And he has always had this level of respect for me that has made me appreciate. He's really defined my whole idea on dating. There was a couple of men that I actually dated, and the last one, my ex that I left when I moved to Texas, asked my son for my hand in marriage, and my son told him no. He was like, I don't really like how you treat my mom. She's a queen and you should treat her as such. Like, she does not deserve anything but that. And he was like, and to be honest with you, I'm not really looking to have you as my stepfather. I mean, of course he didn't say it in those terms. He said it in kids' terms, but that was a gist of pretty much of what he said. And, I have always gone through that moment after that. I never forgot that conversation. And I was like, you know what? I want to introduce someone to my kids that I want them to be proud of, that person that I pick and introduce them to. And, I want to be proud too. So I haven't brought anyone around my kids since my last ex. So they haven't met the current guy that I'm in a relationship with now. And they're kind of like, you haven't had a boyfriend in a while. What's going on? What's happening? And, that's actually a conversation that we've been having lately since the incident that's happened with my son. I asked him, I was like, well, how would you feel if I got into a relationship? He's like, as long as you have somebody that is not going to treat you like Lance, like how Daddy treated you, or like Marcus treated you, I am all on board. He's like, I want you to have someone. I want you to be happy. I want you to have love. He's like, because that's something that you deserve. He's like, Daddy has love. Daddy's in a relationship. You should have love too. He's like, I feel like love is good. He goes, I said, so with me and your daddy's divorce. And he was like, well, that was years ago, Mommy. I was like, okay, well, with our divorce, you still feel like it's okay for Daddy to love and for Mommy to love, but just not for us to be together. He's like, it took me a while to understand why y'all are not together. He said, but I feel like you guys make a great team how you are right now. He said, but I do want you to find someone, and I want you to be in love, and I want you to be happy. And so, with my relationship with my kids, like, the dynamic with them has changed within the last 30 days. And I don't know if it's because of this recent incident that's happening. I'm glad whatever it is that's happened. I'm glad it was an incident that, changed a whole lot of our parenting techniques with the kiddos. I also like the fact that we're talking more. Because, my daughter, she will make sure she goes out of her way to, sit here and, call me up, talk to me and things like that. Now, my son, he would hit me up, but the thing with him is he'd hit me up when there was some stuff going on with his actual phone. So, like, he didn't hit me up for important. I feel like it's important stuff. So when it's something important going on, cool, he hit me up for that. But, like, I feel like now we're talking more, which, oh my goodness, you have no idea how good that makes me feel. It makes me feel so good because he's really going out of his way to make sure that that, you know, we're having open dialogue. It's at least once a week we're having like some kind of conversation that is like really heavy and deep, which that I don't know what it is about that brings my heart so much joy. Like, I'm so happy with the fact of that's the type of relationship that we're currently having. It's really nice. The other thing, it's, you know, sometimes there are going to be decisions that you make that other people might not agree with it. Like, I know there's a lot of people in my family, not necessarily my friends, because my friends kind of, they more or less, they understand why my kids live in North Carolina and why they are not in Texas for the most part of the year. One of the reasons being is because there have been times where I've had jobs that did not financially support me and my two children together. And when I mean that, oh, why didn't you get child support? Why didn't you do all of these things? Why didn't you do that? Even with the child support that I was going to receive from the state, whatever state I was in, from their father, and even with me working, it was not going to be enough to financially support the children and myself. Now, their father, he is retired from the military. He makes enough money where he can take care of the kids by himself. Now, as far as like struggling and things like that, I made an active decision as a mother for the children to live with their father for the most part of the year. So this is the agreement that we have come across. One of the things that kind of hit me a little bit was when I was going through the motions with my mother, maybe about a month or two ago. So this had to have happened before. It happened before Mother's Day, but I made a blog post about the situation that I had with my mother that was extremely toxic, and I made that decision to finally not allow her back in my life. And there have been, and it was a very tough decision, because I have been trying, and that's been one of my goals this year, is to have my mother in my life and to build a healthy and strong relationship with her. But unfortunately, that has not been able to transpire, for the simple fact that a lot of the times when you have family members and you can't get to that point, it's kind of hard to get to the point with your family members that, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. When you have people that do not want to establish a healthy relationship with you, it is very hard to try to go through with something like that without the other party. So if they are not if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and you're the only person that's trying, a lot of the times you're going to find yourself extremely disappointed with the outcome from it. And what I mean by that, there were times where I was trying very hard to ensure that we had a good and healthy relationship, and my mother was not trying at all. Like, not even a little bit. So when things like that happen, I guess because of the last incident, I just got tired. I got tired of doing that. I got tired of being the only person that was literally trying to establish a very good relationship. And I honestly got tired of her putting me down. I got tired of her, taking jabs at me when she got angry. I have always been one of those people that I do not like to say things when I'm mad without thinking about a lot of it first. Now, that's not to say that I want to try to finagle what I'm going to say. I'm going to try to be mean. What I like to do, I don't like apologizing for stuff unnecessary crap that I'm going to have to come back and apologize to you later, and you may or may not forgive me. So I try to do my best that when I have something going on with friends, when I have something going on with family, I do everything that I possibly can to take their feelings into consideration before I make that decision to act a fool. And so when I do this, it's helped me a lot to not have any toxic crap happen with my friendships, with my family, with people. So when I made that decision to cast out my mother, when I made that decision to, be more active and open with my kids, because they're getting to a certain age where I need to start doing that with them, that also made me rethink a lot of stuff with the relationship that I was in with the guy that I had been dating for the past 6 months. I made a decision to take a step away from him because there were a lot of things that were going on in his life that wasn't conducive to what I needed in a partner, in a relationship. So the both of us came to that realization that you need to go away and you need to come back when you get your stuff together. When you come back and get your stuff together, then we can talk. Because I was giving him an opportunity and I was giving him a chance, because the only the only issue that I had with him wasn't him not being consistent, wasn't his communication, wasn't how he treated me. It was the fact of what he had going on in his actual life as a man. And so when he made that decision to do that, fix himself, he came back to me all shiny and new. I was like, okay, here we go. And one of the things with him that I'm happy about, it's the fact that I have never had a man that I've been able to communicate with. And there are times, I'm going to tell you like this, there are times where we have not been able to communicate and we have not been on the same page with shit. But even during those moments, which we've had some it's been some crazy shit happening. Even when that stuff happens, we still are managed to sit down, talk like adults, get through it, come up with a decision, come up with an idea to fix it and be able to move forward. Now, sometimes that might take us a couple of days. That might take us a couple of weeks to do it. Sometimes we can take care of it like within 30 minutes to an hour while we're sitting there talking and hashing shit out. And that's something that is a huge fulfillment for me, because I have not ever had any man do that. And I think had I had one of them do that, I may have been able to push forward with them. And the fact that he deals with my quirks, and I have a lot of quirks, and I have had a lot of walls up and things like that. And he's been able to still be like, okay, you know what? All right. And, he's still pushing through with it all. And I find that to be very admirable, because that is something that is very hard to get past. And I think that was something that I had to realize within myself, that not every man is going to deal with your shit. And that is perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. If he can't deal with it, then he's, usually he's not the one that is for you. And that's also fine. So you find the guy that's going to be perfectly fine with your standards, that's going to be perfectly fine with everything that you have going on. If he can't, and if he can't get through with that, and if he can't deal with that, then he's definitely not the guy for you. And I feel like with him, hey Fitz, thanks for jumping on. And I feel like with him, he's been able to get past all the quirks and get past all of the things, and that's something that has literally truly have made me happy. I feel like a lot of the times you are going to be the person that's in control of your own happiness. I can't allow my happiness to be in the control or influenced by other people. And that's my friends, that's my family, that's anyone. And, I have a good group of, friends that I've had for decades, and we've been friends for a very long time. And I think we've gotten past that point with one another where it's like, I'm not going to sit up here and judge you on your choices that you make. If you hit me up and you say, hey, I need advice, like we've gotten to that point of our relationship where we're like, I need some advice on something. Listen, here's what I got going on. Tell me what you think, and tell me what you think I should do. And then I have friends that they already know if I don't ask, I'm venting. Like they already know. Like I vented about this guy that I'm dating. I didn't have any of them. They didn't like, oh, you need to leave him alone. Oh, he's trash. They didn't really do that to me. They're not really actually, it's not even, they're not really yes women. They're not yes women at all. So they don't, a lot of the decisions that I do make, about majority of them, they don't agree with them. So it's like, unless it has to do with work and I'm leaving a job that's really crappy, they definitely do not agree with a lot of the decisions that I make. But because we have been friends so long, they know, they trust me and they trust my decision making, because a lot of the times when I'm in sticky situations, when I'm at the bottom of the barrel, when I am at my last hope, I have a tendency, and this is something that I'm very proudful of about myself, I have a tendency to always come out of that circumstance better, way better than before I even got into the circumstance when I hit rock bottom. And so a lot of the times I think they've gotten to the point where they're like, man, you're going to be good. I don't agree with the situation, but I think you're going to be good. A lot of them were actually shocked when I made that decision to leave the guy that I'm in the relationship with now. When I decided to leave him alone, they were actually shocked, because my track record in the past was to keep pushing forward and to continue dating him and watching and hoping and praying that he changes. So this was something, because they've watched my path with the dating over the past, like, what, 3 years, and previously, up until the point, some of them have been around way before, my ex-husband has been around. And, that was my track record. That's how I continually kept making the same bad decisions. So, this particular decision of me not continue on dating with him and to stop the dating and telling him to get his shit together and to come back when he gets his shit together, like, that was something that was shocking, because none of us knew whether or not he was going to be able to, if he was going to come through or not. So that was the part that was going to be, like, low key a little scary, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to come back. I wasn't even sure. I was just sitting up here like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know it's going to be good. But, I did try. I had some friends that had a lot of, and I wouldn't say it's negative, but it wasn't beneficial for my happiness on their input on what I should do about him. And with that, I mean, that's not to say that is a bad thing. That's just to say that not everyone is going to understand a lot of the decisions that you make, especially when it comes with job, with life, with your children, with relationships that you're in. A lot of people are not going to understand that. So with that being said, a lot of the times you're going to have to create your own happiness. You're going to have to you're going to have to run your own show. You can't allow your happiness to be in control of other people, friends, family, work, especially. Another thing that I realized that I needed to do with changing the whole happiness in my life, so I needed to change my job. This was the second job that I had been in within the past 6 or 7 years where I was extremely unhappy, and I was doing absolutely nothing to change that. I was making the least amount of money that I have ever made with a job. Like, I literally, when I took this last job, it was a pay cut. It was an extreme pay cut. So the job that I had been at for over 5 years, the pay was phenomenal. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, the pay was good, but this was like, I was basically below the poverty line. It was really bad. And the benefits weren't that great either. And then the fact that they kept changing things, and then they changed the paydays, like, they let us know that last minute. It was just a lot of politics and procedures that I just didn't really care for, and I didn't feel like I was getting my worth for the job that I was doing. So I made that decision, like, when the very last thing happened, I made that decision, like, you know what, it's time for me to start looking for another job. And I started looking for another job aggressively. Like, I just didn't have a job. And I kind of feel like that whenever you are in a circumstance where you're at a place of employment that you absolutely hate and you absolutely don't like, I feel like that should be the point that you should start looking for a job. I kind of feel like you should always be looking. You should always have your resume out there. You should always do those kind of things. But I feel like if you're at a job, the best time to do it is when you're already working. Not when they lay you off, not when you get fired, not during those times. That is something that you should be doing right at that very moment. And you should be doing that aggressively. I was literally aggressively putting out job applications, 5 job applications every single day. Now, when I wasn't working, I was putting out like 10. So it was a huge difference of the two. This went on for about a month. So at that month point, I was able to, at that month point, I was able to do it. And I got a fantastic job offer. So the job offer pays $12,000 more a year than what I was previously making. I have benefits, like the benefits are great. I have extra perks. I have, I'm just really happy. The job is it's going to be extremely hard, and it's going to be mentally exhausting, but I'm getting what the job entails. I'm getting paid what it entails, which is amazing. So it's like, I created that own happiness, and I'm not stressing. I won't be stressing about a lot of stuff that I'm usually stressing about previously. So I feel like you are the person that can control and make your own happiness. You are the person that can make that decision to change a lot of those things. And if you are unhappy about something, sitting there complaining about it, sitting there doing the whole woe is me kind of thing, that's not really going to change anything. That's not going to change anything with your happiness whatsoever. It's honestly, it's really not. The only person that can do that would be you. If you don't like your job, if you do not like your job, you need to start looking for a different job. And I mean that with all the love that I can possibly muster for you. You honestly really should do that. If you have toxic people in your life, if you have a toxic family member, if you have a toxic partner, if there's something that is where it's gotten to that point where you have already tried to fix it, and you've already gotten to that point where it is unfixable, I feel like that is the point where you need to chunk them the deuces and you need to go on about your happy, merry way. When you have something going on, like with your family, and I mean this, like if you have kids, like that's something, of course, you can't toss your kids off to the side. that's a given. But it's like you do need to, if there's a relationship that is going on and there's a barrier going on with your children, because you are the parent, and if your kids are a certain age, it is always going to be your responsibility to put that olive branch out, to create that happy and healthy relationship. That is never your child's responsibility to build a happy and healthy relationship. You got years of wisdom on your kid. So use that wisdom to make it something amazing and healthy. Not use your wisdom to have it as something toxic as hell. Like that's literally something that I had to realize with the relationship that I was having with my mother. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't toxic. And she just, anytime she was in my life, shit was not going right. I was not happy. Everything was going down in shambles. And it was like, put that on top of the fact of the relationship I was having with my children that was subpar, the relationship that I was having with the guy that I was seeing, and the fact that I had a job that was like, it was stressing me the hell out. All of those mix that can create a tornado of hell. So it's like, if you start fixing, like I had to, myself, I had to fix it. I had to exile my mother out of my life. I had to tell this guy, hey, you know what? You're not really serving a purpose in my life. I had to tell him to go on about his business. And I had to stop and take a realization and grasp my career by my own hands and say, you know what, it's time for you to start going someplace else. Because I'm not the type to jump ship. Any job that I ever jump on or, get on board, I'm in that mindset, like I want to retire with you guys, if that's possible. I don't ever get on and start a job and sit up here and think, oh yeah, you know what, I'm going to stay with you guys for 10 months and then I'm going to chunk you a good old deuces. I'm going to do that if something better comes along. You should always have your options open, of course, but your intention shouldn't be to jump from job to job every so often. That's never a good look for you, especially when you're trying to go out and aggressively apply for those better opportunities. That's never a good look for you to do that with future jobs, because they're going to see that and be like, what's going on? What you doing? So I just kind of feel like, if this helps anybody, this would be a great fresh start for you for the week. If you got some stuff where you're just looking around and you're not feeling all too happy at the moment, maybe it's time for you to start taking a whole lot of control in a lot of things that are going on in your life. Take control of your money. Take control of your life with your children. And I mean that in a healthy way when I say to take control with your children. If you're in a relationship and things aren't going so right, take control of that. If they are on their last leg, man, maybe it's time for you to go ahead and release them. Maybe they need to go ahead and get released and they need to become a free agent for the moment. If anything with your business, if you got a business and you're like, man, this is not going good, it's time for you to revamp it. A lot of times with me and my business, I had to take some master classes. That has helped me tremendously. Now, sometimes depending on what kind of masterclass you get, you'll have to put a whole lot of money in, or you're not going to have to put that much money in. But just think of it as an investment for your actual business. That's a lot of the times how I have to think of it. So, and that's kind of helped me a lot. That's actually helped me a whole lot to think about my business in that scope. Like, oh God, here I go putting more money into it. Like, oh, this is gonna be so annoying. But it's a good business idea. I think it's when you do stuff like that, you have a tendency to more so thrive. And it's nothing wrong with taking advice from people that are fully knowledgeable in that field, that have been there just like you, and they're just showing you a shortcut to get it done. I feel like anytime that you do stuff like that, there you go. I think you'll be just fine when you do stuff like that. I just hope maybe this brings you something. I know it's tomorrow's, celebration of Memorial Day, and you probably got other stuff that got you going on this week. But while you're sitting back trying to make that decision on how your week is gonna be, what you're gonna do for the week, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind when you do it. That this can be the week that you start making changes. This can be the week that you can start making changes for your happiness. We are halfway in the middle of the year. It's June's coming up. It's going to be 6 months, and then you got a whole new year where you're making a whole new set of goals and plans. If you made some goals and plans at the start of this new year and you haven't touched not one of them, it doesn't hurt to start making your changes or start making your decisions about it now. It doesn't hurt at all. So I hope this brings some kind of epiphany or aha moment for someone this week. I definitely hope your week is filled with happiness, joy, great success, and a lot of good news. I love you guys. I will talk with you next week. Cheyenne, what are you doing? Okay, Cheyenne. All right. Well, you guys have yourself a good night and a happy and prosperous week.